Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Matt here, and today I wanted to discuss shooting bags, specifically the three here that I've settled on for PRS style shooting. I made a video back in 2020 discussing and showing various shooting bags that I had made to kind of play around with and see what best suited my shooting style for these types of matches. And some of them I kept, some of them I refined and redesigned, and so these are kind of the final three that I've been using for the better part of 18 months now for the last 2 seasons of PRS style rimfire matches here. And as I dabble with centerfire, hopefully I can test these out in some centerfire matches as well. But I wanted to make this video as kind of an update to that original video to show you what the designs are now. So these 3 bags I made myself. If any of these interest you in the video, you can buy very similar products to these online. You don't have to make them yourself. Inspiration was taken from a lot of products that already exist on the market, but I just wanted to make my own so I could play around with different materials, different fills, and different sizes to see if I could kind of tweak what was best for my own shooting style. So we're gonna just talk about these. Again, I made all these myself. The fabric on all of these are 1000 denier Cordura, which is my preference for shooting bags now. But they are filled with different things depending on what they're used for. So we'll start here with the big one. Of course, this is not a Barricade bag. It's not really designed for rifle support. This is more an aid for positional shooting, or I guess your position in shooting. This is basically a pump pillow. In fact, this is, I think, my 4th iteration of the pump pillow design, but I ended up just copying WeBad's features and designs. So essentially I made my own WeBad pump pillow. Originally I had one that was basically just a cube, and then I made it bigger and smaller and whatnot, and it just wasn't really working out. I actually do like the rectangular design here because you have all these different heights to work with. This face here with all the different straps and bungees, again, I tried to mimic from the WeBad design. So if you want to try a pump pillow like this, just buy the WeBad one. It's the same dimensions and everything. These straps can be used on your arm, so you can fish your arm through these straps and kind of cinch it down to keep it in place where you want. I very seldomly use these straps, to be honest, but again, I added these straps in because I was looking at the design and seeing what they put into their product, which is extremely popular, and for good reason. I did add some grab handles on the side here, as well as some attachment points. I prefer to carry the pump pillow on my belt, so on my waistline. That way it's not really in my way. I know some people do like to carry it across their body with a shoulder strap, but I found even though that might be sometimes quicker to bring up into position, it kind of gets in my way a little bit more often. So I like to have this on my waist. You'll also see that the pump pillow is on me a lot. If you follow the channel, you'll see a lot of match footage where I actually have the pump pillow on me, but I'm not using it. And that's just because it's so light. It doesn't really weigh anything. It doesn't, drag me down, that if I think there might be a slim chance that I would want to use it in a stage, I'll bring it along, and if I don't need to use it, it's not really in my way. So that's the reason why you'll see this in a lot of match footage, even though I'm not using it as often as you might expect. I think it's just kind of a nice little tool to have in the toolbox. And again, it doesn't really weigh anything. Although it is large, you can just kind of clip it to the outside of your pack and just kind of carry it along. So if you need it, you have it there. In terms of the fill, the one that I made here is just filled with some cut up open cell foam that I had from an old gun case. I know people will often fill their pump pillows and homemade positional pillows with beanbag stuffing, which you can easily get from Walmart or craft stores. But yeah, again, the WeBad pump pillow, essentially just my copied version, is something that I really like. So check out the WeBad pump pillow if you think this might work for you as well. Going on to the next one, we'll talk about this guy here. I showed a very similar bag in terms of design and size in my original video from 2020, and this is basically the same thing. It really hasn't been tweaked in terms of its design. I found it works really nicely. You can see it's a very similar shape and size to the Game Changer, which is a very popular bag for good reason. Mine is a little bit different in the shape of it, but in terms of the size, I would say it's between the pint size and the medium. I think it works really nicely for me. This, actually both these next bags are filled with HDPE pellets. I believe that stands for for high density polyethylene, and it's basically kind of a mid-weight fill. It's not quite as heavy as like the silica sand some of the heavy bags are filled with, but I actually really like the HDPE fill because I find it's a little bit more malleable, and that's a big benefit when I'm using this as as a rear bag. So if I'm shooting prone or off a bench, I will also use this as a rear bag, which I find works very nicely. Again, because of the fill I've chosen, it's really easy to manipulate the height and size of the bag, which is kind of what you want. Obviously, if you're doing a lot of prone shooting or bench shooting, you might want something that settles in a little bit better than this fill here, but for the type of style shooting that I'm doing, I really like using this as a rear bag as well. I do have some grab handles on the sides as well as the top. Originally, I was unsure if this top handle would get caught up on the bottom of my rifles as I was moving them back and forth on the bag, but that's proven not to be an issue at all. So I just left that top handle there, and I do have a Velcro closure to adjust the fill as well. But this bag has been really good. However, since I've made this bag here, which we'll talk about next, I actually don't use this on Barricades as often anymore because I use this bag a lot more for Barricade stuff. Now I find myself gravitating towards this bag for Barricades, specifically for the weird barricades that have some sort of strange angle to them. For example, the middle of a tank trap, or if a ladder is put on an angle. When this flat style bag might not work well in those sort of shapes, I'll go to this bag here because it kind of fills the void and allows you to put the rifle on it a little bit easier. But for the most part, this is now mostly a rear bag, or again, those strange barricade usage. So this is the bag that I use the most in my matches now, and this is an Arca rail mounted bag I made. It's kind of two parts. You have the plate system with the Arca clamp, as well as the bag that I made that attaches to the bottom, obviously. This is affectionately called the KEVFAT because the plate was 3D printed by my buddy Kevin, and the bottom here is a WOMFAT bag, so we call it the KEVFAT. If you hear that on the Rimfire Nation podcast, this is the bag we're referring to. I really like this system. And again, if you like this Arca rail mounted bag system, I know Area 419 makes a plate system, as well as Gray Ops, and different various companies will make compatible bags for those systems, so you can look into that. But that's basically what we tried to mimic. The bag is removable. I sewed in some Velcro straps here, and you can easily lift it right off of the plate. So the plate here again is printed, 3D printed. Kevin decided to print this in ABS, which is quite nice, as opposed to PLA, which can warp in hot temperatures and stuff. ABS is a little bit better for outdoor use, and it's nice and stiff. It's a solid print, so there's no honeycomb inside here, and it works really nicely. Again, the clamp we purchased off of Amazon, and we decided to go for one that has a quick release lever as opposed to a turn knob, and it works quite well. The bag here, as I mentioned before, does attach with these Velcro straps, and I do have a zipper on the top here so I can open it up and adjust the fill. As I mentioned before, oops, I'm spilling them everywhere. But as I mentioned before, I have filled this with HDPE pellets, and same thing as the other Barricade bag there. So once I close this up and get rid of these pellets that I spilled, I can easily reattach this onto the plate using these Velcro straps that just go through these slots here. Pretty straightforward. I did design and make the bag to fit the plate perfectly, obviously. So when it's attached to the plate here on the straps, you'll see that it does not sag from the plate at all. It's nice and tight to the plate, and it's kind of just like a rectangular brick that is the Barricade bag. Now, I know some people like to have the plate mounted bags kind of in the same shape as a Game Changer, and I actually did make a few bags like this to attach to this plate, but I actually did not like it and I don't use them. The reason why, in my mind, that you want these ears is so that they kind of help sit the Barricade bag on a skinny Barricade and it doesn't want to tip over as easily. Well, when this is mounted to the bottom of your rifle, you don't really need to worry about that because it's not going anywhere since your rifle is attached to the bag and everything is put onto the Barricade. I've never felt like this is going to slip off forward or back, and when I had a similar style bag to this mounted on the plate, it was actually a little bit cumbersome to come off and off of Barricades fluidly. So what I mean by that is if this is mounted to the bottom of your rifle, to put it on and off a Barricade, you have to kind of come up and then off and then drop it down like this. Whereas you just have a nice little rectangular bag here, you can kind of just more or less go straight in and out. So I like the rectangular bag. I purposely filled it with just enough pellets so that on a point, for example, like a tank trap tip, it never bottoms out to the plate. So you're avoiding, again, that hard on hard contact that you're trying to avoid. Yeah, it's not filled so much that it can't conform to other things. So if I put it on a rung of a ladder or something a little bit skinnier, you can see it still conforms to that and gives me some good stability. So we did play around with different sizes and shapes of the bag, but we ended up just sticking to like a brick shape, which works really nicely in my opinion. And just to show you the attachment, I do have my Voodoo here. Very straightforward. Obviously, you just choose where you want to attach the bag, throw it onto the rail, and then close up the quick release lever, and then it's locked on there. You'll see me running this bag in most stages for matches. Again, as long as the Barricade doesn't have some weird angle in it where I'm forced to use this guy, I'll probably be running the Arca rail mounted bag because I find it helps me be a little bit more fluid with my movement. It's just one less thing to have in hand. I know some people prefer not to have it mounted on their rifle, and it's all about your own preference and shooting style. So definitely test it out and see what works best for you. But I personally really like the bag mounted onto my rifle. Again, to detach it, obviously, I just have to undo that lever and it falls right off. These 3 bags really cover all the needs I have in matches these days. So until I find that there's something else I want to play around with, I'm not really designing or making any bags at the moment because these 3 just work really nicely. It gives me a little bit more time to focus on actually practicing and doing other stuff as opposed to just making bags all day. Anyway, hopefully this was a good update to my original video, what I've kind of settled on and how designs were refined. If you have any questions, of course, leave them down in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Cheers.